Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Something Super Spiritual. And look who I found in backstage.
Hello.
Kelly Eckhart, thank you so much for being here with us. It's so fun to have you over here. It's usually me co-hosting with you guys
Right.
in your end.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on the show. And I'm just so excited.
So how you been? What's happening with you?
A lot's been going on. I mean, I've been trying to get this crystal store up and running, and we are open, and it's been a lot of work, but I'm loving it. And just kind of finding a new groove, kind of, because I'm not used to having to be somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. You guys. So Kelly is in the Sacramento area, for those of you that haven't met Kelly yet. And she just opened this fabulous crystal store, spiritual bookstore, where you do groups, readings, and classes, and courses, and crystals, and
Yes, surrounded by beautiful crystals everywhere. We've been meditating in the store with all the crystals around us, which is amazing.
it is amazing. Yeah. That's one of my favorite things to do. I will very often throw a giant crystal grid here on my floor and sit in the middle of it. Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Yeah. And
yeah, we were talking about earlier before we got started, and then we cut ourselves off so we could talk about this because there's a feeling out there where this is touching a lot of us, and it's this little bit of a funky vibe, a little bit of like this heaviness in the air, the energy. For me personally, I've always been a huge dreamer.
Me too.
And since before I could formulate a sentence, I have always had extreme apocalyptic dreams.
Oh, wow.
And I would wake up as a child, even as a teenager, just in a full screen panic mode, waking my mom up, my grandmother up, and they're running to me as I'm flailing in my sleep.
Yeah, that's scary.
And throughout my adulthood, that has it every now and then. These apocalyptic dreams happen. They're not as severe because I've learned to, like, somewhere in my early 20s, I started to recognize in the dream that I was dreaming. And I started to like take control, take my power back. And I was like lucid dreaming.
I do. Right? That's what I do. Yes.
Yeah. And then, so every now and then, they come and they go, but they're not as extreme and feeling, where I'm like in panic mode. However, in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 days, these apocalyptic dreams are full front and center. And along with that, like I was telling you earlier, Kelly, like this morning I woke up in this really like raw state where I just felt extra vulnerable, extra insecure, extra like, who am I?
Right? Or like, am I an imposter?
Oh my God, extra.
Yes. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I've been feeling very emotional lately, very sensitive. I'm a big dreamer my whole life too. But mine used to be spirits bothering me. Not that they're a bother, but like I was a kid.
Sure.
And an adult, but I didn't know how to control it. I've worked on that, but lately I've been having some crazy dreams and I've been feeling a little off and very sensitive. And I know I'm not the only one. I've talked to other people. I'm not an astrologer, so I just feel like there's something going on with the universe right now around astrologically, that is affecting us. I know I'm affected by the moon. I know I'm affected by like the ocean, like the waves, like the tides, like all of that.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
And so perhaps it's something to do, I don't know, but it has been very strange and I've been overly sensitive. The self-doubt or the insecurity part, I feel like that comes and goes with me periodically. Every now and then I wake up and be like, I'm an imposter. I'm not real. Like I'm making this all up. Like I don't know what I'm doing. And I know it's not true. And typically when that happens, I'll have like the best reading week of my life and I get all of these like responses which obviously the universe knew I needed from people telling me how I helped them. So then I feel better,
Yeah.
but I go through that periodically. So that like I can relate to totally.
Yeah, and,
And
you know,
it's normal.
I mean, I think that is totally normal for all of us,
Right.
you
Well,
know,
the
and not
minute you think like you're amazing and that there's nothing wrong with you and you're not doubtful, I think is the minute you need to look at yourself, not when you're having these insecurities. I think insecurities are normal. If you're not having the insecurities, there might be something you need to look at, right? That's what
yeah,
I think.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting.
There's yeah, you know, like that. You know, there's a fine line between ego and confidence.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like walking within there somewhere with whatever we're doing. Doesn't matter what we're doing. We could be a Broadway performer. We could be a Supreme Court judge. You know, we
Yeah,
could be
it's there's
a
it's
doctor. We could be a surgeon. I mean, whatever. It
but
doesn't
we're
matter.
human at
Yeah,
heart, and humans have insecurities, and we have fears, and we have all these things, but as spiritual beings, don't we also know, like, this is part of life, and we can overcome it, and
yeah,
we can reverse it with our positive affirmations or thoughts, right?
totally.
Yeah, but I the dreaming has been crazy. Normally, I remember my dreams, they're so vivid, they're so real,
Oh,
but
oh,
I know I've been dreaming, but I'm not remembering them, which is interesting.
oh, that's unusual.
It's different for me, so that's something that's changed recently. I suspect it's just exhaustion, you know? Not I've been doing a lot, and so, like, I'm not remembering because 'cause I'm really in a deep sleep.
Well, you know, that could be. Have you like before I go to sleep often, and I can't say every night because I'm sure not every night, but before I go to sleep often, I call on my guides, guardians, you know, whoever's there listening and around, you know, to you know, in my deepest sleep, come get me. Let's do some healing work. Let's do whatever is in my best and highest good.
Always. Yes.
And I wonder, you know, for you, if in that those moments where you're not remembering, if that's where you are doing that kind of work.
Well, probably, but typically I remember that work. But I also think, I'm in a new stage in my life, like, I'm 53, like,
I'm 53 too.
things are changing, and I know that one thing that I will be honest, like, I have never really slept much my entire life. 5 hours. That's me, a night.
Oh, you're one of those.
But recently, I really want my sleep, and I've been, like, going into deep sleeps and sleeping, like, 9 hours, which is so like, I just
Ooh,
can't even believe it. It's just not me, but I'm doing it. But obviously, like, I need it.
I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I'm
Y
going with it, and
yeah,
I'm
you
having these dreams, I know I'm dreaming, I'm
mhm,
aware that I'm dreaming, but the minute I wake up, I'm literally like, I know I was, like, in this crazy dream, but I can't remember it, and I'm, like, okay with that
yeah,
because I'm literally been dreaming since the day I was born. I think I was dreaming in the womb, like, I was, like so it's kind of nice to have a little break and a rest,
yeah, totally.
but the emotional part, like, I'm a girl, I've always been very sensitive. I've always like, my brothers used to make fun of me because, I would have a pout lip, you know, so they would, like, hurt my feelings on purpose just to see my pout lip as a child, right? Because I couldn't control it. I've
Yeah,
always been a very and I've always felt other people's emotions and felt other people's pain, and I've worked really hard in my development to have a good boundary so that I could do this work and not fall apart. And
yeah.
but recently, this year mostly, I have been, like, totally having, like, these emotional cry breakdowns that feel so good.
Those do feel so
Releasing,
good.
releasing.
Mhm.
And things on the street, like seeing homeless people has always hit me hard, but this year it's been even harder. I'm like my
Interesting.
husband's like, I literally am, like, trying to take the shoes off my feet to give to somebody or my jacket off my back in the pouring rain to give them, and my husband's like, "We've gotta have some boundaries. Like, you can't be doing this." Like, I'm trying to give away, like, stuff I'm wearing because I feel so bad.
Yeah,
And I'm a sensitive person, but it's, like, out of control sometimes, but I think that I'm going through a new phase in life, and this is what happens.
yeah.
And I think there's something going on astrologically for the whole world. There's a
Well,
lot.
I know that there is. I just had Dina, our local astrologer, Dina DeCastro. She was on
Oh,
a couple
okay.
weeks ago, and she was talking about the big changes happening right now with Jupiter going into Gemini. That's a big deal, and it's there for the next 12 months.
Okay.
And I think there was a conjunction with Jupiter and Uranus, and that's like a long time thing because they're so far out there, so
Mhm.
they just move really slowly.
Right. That's
Um,
how I feel I am these days.
yeah, yeah. I can't speak like I can't speak too much on it. I
Me
know
either.
just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. I rely a lot on Brianna, my assistant slash niece.
Yes.
She's got the family trait, of course, with the intuition and all that, and but she's really into astrology and those types of things. And so I love that because she helps balance me out. And I just ask her and she tells me what's going on. So,
I
but
love
yeah, right. I'm like, okay, Brianna, what's going on? Why am I feeling like this? She's kind of my go-to person. But definitely, she told me something was going on too. I can't remember it all. You're great. I'm like impressed that you actually remember the actual terms because it just goes in one ear and out the other, and I just know there's something's going on.
Yes.
That's me. I'm like, I love astrology, but I can't seem to grasp all the concepts and all the words. Um,
Courtney says I have been doing the same as Kelly. Yes.
oh, I see the chats. I didn't see them at first.
Yeah.
I was in the private chat. I was like, why are there no comments? Sorry, everybody. Now I see them. Yeah, a lot's going on I don't think we're the only ones going through this. There's a lot going on. Yeah.
There
And
is a lot. Yeah.
well, there is all over the world, like if you watch the news, which I try not to, but there's a
Oh,
lot happening. And as empaths and spiritual beings, like we are feeling that. The
oh,
universe is
completely.
feeling it. And
Yeah.
that has to be having some effect on us. And I mean, honestly, there have been a lot of people that have passed because of what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and what's going on in
There really is.
Israel and,
Mhm.
with Gaza. Like there's been a lot of people joining the spirit world, and I think we're feeling that. I mean, personally, I think it's not just this what's going on astrologically. I think we're feeling all of these the deaths that are happening and the traumatic passings.
Yeah, and just the chaos from it, the
Mhm.
the unsettled, frenetic. Um, well, we can't help it. It's there. It's out there.
Feel it,
We're
yeah,
connected to it.
it's around us, we're surrounded by it. Oh,
Uh,
somebody wants to know if we can see their comments.
yeah, Tracy just asked. Yes, Tracy, we can see you. You're the only one on Facebook. Yeah, I
I
noticed
have
that
a couple
last
people
week.
on Facebook.
I don't know if something shifted in whatever algorithm I've been connected to, because I've noticed that there's been a shift and a lot less than normal. And then I get messages like, well, I didn't get a message or I didn't see that you were on. So yeah, something must have.
Facebook gets a little weird here and there, but I have and maybe it's my Facebook, I don't know if I see all the comments, but I have about 4 or 5 people on Facebook that I can see in the
Yeah,
comments.
Courtney and
And then a lot of
Instagram.
YouTube. You're big on YouTube, aren't you?
I have YouTube. Yeah, and Instagram. We've got Christina and Trish. Hi, Trish,
Oh,
Lynn, Mary, RDAS Rue. I remember that screen name, but I'm sorry I don't remember your actual name. But thank you guys for being here. VGypt is here. Hi, Dawn. And Keith, thank you, Keith. Thank you for your moderating.
oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
Vicky, Lola. Hi, Lola. There's Sue. Hi, Sue. Yeah. Hi, Teresa. Yeah, we're just having a little bit of conversation. We're gonna do some readings for you guys. So if you want,
Yeah.
a message from your guides, guardians, card pulled, whatever, we're here, and we're gonna do our thing with you.
What are these little wrenches next to people's names?
Those are the moderators.
They're what?
The moderators. They're the people that help us,
How do they
well,
get the
moderate.
wrench?
We give it to them, and it's in YouTube. We go into YouTube and we pick
Oh.
their name and then
Oh,
we
I need to
assign
talk to
them.
you about that because I don't know how to use YouTube that
Yeah.
well. I mean, I do live there all the time, but I don't know how I do it.
They're so helpful. They're so helpful.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. I'm like, "What are all these wrenches? Who are these things?" I'm like, "What's going on here? That's new. I don't see that." I need moderators in YouTube.
Well, you have Brianna.
I have Brianna. She's amazing, and like I said, she's available.
Yeah. Brianna's coming over to something super spiritual.
She's amazing. She really is.
Shortly.
I'm not just saying that because 'cause I'm her niece and I love her, but she really is amazing and she's very helpful. Yeah,
She is. She's really amazing.
yeah.
I had another question I wanted to ask you, but in this last conversation, it just fell right out of my head. And do you suppose I could find it? No. So
Oh,
let's just
that's
move on.
53.
Yeah. Yeah, it is 53.
When's your birthday, Jeffrey?
Almost 54. August 12th.
Oh, I'm September 29th. So we are very close to each
You
other.
are.
Where were
Yeah.
you born? Were you in California when you were
No,
born?
Alaska, Fairbanks, Alaska.
Oh, okay, but same time zone.
Uh,
Or
no,
East
Alaska
Coast.
is a couple hours behind, I think.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Or at
Well,
least that part of Alaska. It's either
I'm
an
not
hour behind or 2 hours behind.
I'm not great with you know, maps,
Well, you know what's interesting about being,
geography.
I'm just gonna like throw this out there just because we're talking about this. But what's interesting about being born so far north
Yeah,
on the globe is that my chart, my natal chart in astrology, where most people have like, one sign, maybe two signs per house, I have one house with three signs in it because I'm so far north.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and so that happens twice, on the top and then on the bottom opposite of
Yeah.
that. So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that's
very cool. So you've way educated yourself way more than I have with those charts. I have my natal chart, but I have to rely on an app to explain it all to me.
yeah, it's been something that I've, read and read and studied and not studied to the point where I can facilitate something like that.
But you have
But
an understanding.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know,
awesome.
it's so funny. You would think I should be an astrologer because as a small child, like literally at age 3, when in the 70s, they had these little machines in like all the restaurants or stores where you put a quarter in and you could get your astrology report and it would be for the month. And then on January 1st, you would get a special one. It was 50 cents, I believe, if I remember right. And you put your two quarters in on January 1st and you would get the whole entire year.
No kidding.
And so as a child, I forced my mother to buy me these every month and every January 1st and had her read them to me until I could read my own. And so you wouldn't think I would be, as a small child, like an astrologer, but I was just more interested in like my own astrology, like nothing else.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Like I didn't have that experience as a child. And I often wonder like what would be different if I was tapped into a little bit of spirituality. You know what I mean? Just like
Mhm.
even like what you're talking about, reading your horoscope and
Oh, I've
and,
just
and
always been
like,
tapped in, I think, since the day I was born.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't a choice.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
It was just, I mean, I know that everybody is born with a gift, but, like, I actually came here apparently, to remember everything, which is a lot of responsibility. I can actually remember the day I was born. Yeah,
What?
I can remember my whole first year of life. I mean, there was an earthquake in 1971 in Northridge, and I was 4 months old, and my crib had wheels, and I was in a room with my 4 siblings. I'm the baby. We had, like, 1 bunk bed and then 2 twin beds and then the crib, and my mom, it was early in the morning, I think, and she was wearing a blue robe and curlers, and she smelled like cigarettes and coffee, and she's screaming at my siblings to get in the doorway, get in the doorway, get under, in the doorway frames, because it was a big earthquake. It was the Northridge earthquake in 1971,
Wow.
and nobody remembered me, and I thought, "Why did I come here? These people don't even want a baby." And, my crib had these wheels, and it was just slamming on the wall, like, over and over, because it was such a jolty earthquake
Mhm, mhm.
that I hit the wall a good 6 or 7 times before she realized that I was there and went to grab me.
Okay, that is just
I remember.
bananas. You
So
said you're 4 months old?
I was 4 months old. Our bedroom went below the ground so that our bedroom window, my bedroom window, was ground level. And so my
Oh,
crib was at that window, so I would open the window and I had no screen and play with the bugs when I was about 9 months old. And I would, like, put my hand out there and let the bugs cr I loved bugs as a child. Yeah, I mean, weird things that, like, why do I remember these? But I do remember that when we sang, like, "Don't forget anything, you're here to remember everything." So, that's part of my
that is incredible.
journey, but it's interesting, right?
Mhm.
I remember too many things. Now I'm at the age where I'm like, I have to start dumping information so I can make room for
Yes.
so, yeah, it's going away. But I still remember a lot. But when I remember it, I smell everything still. I can smell my mother, the coffee and the cigarettes. I can smell the earthquakes. Like when you have an earthquake, there's like a smell that happens from the
Really?
earth moving, like the dirt and the ground and all that. And it makes like a kind of like the way a rock smells, that kind of a smell. I don't know how to explain it.
Like a
I
minerally
Yeah, like a mineral smell, yes, I can still smell all of that, and that brings back the memory. So I remember things with smells and visual and senses of what I felt, and that's what I remember as an infant.
that is trippy.
It is trippy, I don't understand it. I've met 2 people in my lifetime that have experienced something similar. Yeah, I
Wow.
apparently I chose this, I don't know what I was thinking.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
you're doing a lot of good. That's what I know.
Yeah, I know, I chose all of this. I'm like, "Woo, what was I thinking?" I chose the hard road.
Dawn says that earthquakes smell like overturned dirt.
They do, exactly, that's it. There's, like, this smell of earth, yeah. It's like, but, like, the minerals in it and the dirt and the ground. Like, I don't know if anybody else smells this, but I smell it in my crystals as well. You can smell, like, the metals and the dirt minerals and all this, like, you could smell that in the ground, and you can smell it in the crystals, and I smell it during earthquakes.
That's amazing.
Very It's very weird.
Yeah, it's
Um,
incredible.
if you see me smelling things, that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
And this is what I do when I go to crystal stores. And I didn't know I did that, and somebody was like, "Why are you smelling everything?" I was like, "Am I? Oh, no clue." But I'm smelling, like, it's familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a
Awesome.
strange one. I'm a
Well,
weird
thank you for sharing that little bit of information. I love
one.
it.
Now you all know I'm strange and weird, okay?
Well, I mean, it takes one to know one, so welcome to the club.
Anyways, it's just, I don't know why I do it.
Let's, you know what, let's go to hold on. Somebody asked something about guides.
Oh, I love that question. Where is it?
Okay, so hang on guys, give me just a second. Put your
Oh,
questions
a
up here.
Don Bowish? I'd love a message from my guides. Is that the one?
Nope, nope. We'll come to Dawn. We'll come to Dawn. There was a little bit more than that. Oh, Sylvia.
Oh,
Sylvia.
yeah, I see that right up there, 418.
There we go. There we go. Hi, Sylvia.
Hi, Sylvia.
So I feel I have a lot of guides, but I've not heard any names. Is it possible that you can tell me my guides' names or any messages from them?
Hmm. Well, I have a question. Why do you feel you need to know their names, Sylvia? I'm just curious. And I wanna know how you feel about that, Jeffrey, about names.
Okay. Here's how I feel about it.
Curious, yeah, I'm curious because
Here's how I feel about it. So, as human beings, we all come here with an ego. First and foremost, we are a spiritual being, unlimited, limitless in this meat bag, right? And we have this ego, and the ego identifies separately. We identify individually, and the ego applies, names to all of that which is the we come into contact with, right?
Yeah.
So, do I feel the name is important in the big picture? No. But in the little picture, I know all of my guides' names. And I want to explain to you, Sylvia, that as much as and you know what, Sylvia Brown used to give people's guides names all the time. Do you remember that, Kelly?
I do, but she made them up.
I know she totally did.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you, Sylvia. To me, our guides' names are very personal, and it's a very intimate relationship that we have with our spirit team. They are a team that we chose before coming here, and they've been here from the get-go, right? And we have guides come and go throughout our entire life, depending on whatever we're working on, what our challenges are, what new chapters we're in, you know. So here's the thing. I really want to encourage you to sit with yourself in silence. Put on a little bit of like really nice meditation music and just sit in silence with yourself with the intention of your guides coming very close to you. And just feel the difference in what you sense. Feel it's very, very subtle. It's very subtle.
Yes,
you might feel one chilly bump. You might feel a little like a suddenly cold and then suddenly hot. You might feel what feels like maybe a little bit of like a static electricity or a little bit of a pressure. Very, very, very subtle.
Cool breeze.
Yep.
With like goosebumps.
And if you don't feel anything, don't judge that. It's totally okay.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. While you're there with intention, ask your guide to give you their calling card, their name, right? Without overthinking it, literally the first thing that comes to your mind, literally, is it. And if you feel like you're making it up, allow yourself to have made it up.
Yeah.
But you have and are connecting with your guide in that moment.
Yeah. I love that. You know, that's an exercise I actually give to my clients to connect with their loved ones as well, sitting with them and just feeling the energy. Now, here's the thing. I've had guides my whole life. I have 5 that have been with me since before I was born. I remember them. And all my
Of course you do.
I was in the spirit world for 13 years watching all my siblings be born before I was born. And I was 3 miscarriages. I remember all of this, and I remember my guides. One of my guides is my great-grandmother, Maud Beckwith, who died way before when my mom was 15, she died. And I have several other guides. So I know one of them because she's my grandma, my great-grandma. I saw her in pictures. I didn't realize it till I was 3, and I said, "Oh, there's my angel." You know, and I got in trouble. But I've never felt the need to know their names. I know who they are by the energetic feeling, the love that they give me, and I actually know what they look like because they come to me with like their face and they look like people, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, so I think, you know, like what you said, sit with them and ask him for a name. I've never felt the need to ask her name. That's why I was curious, you know, but my dad is a guide now. He passed in 2000 and I think 2002 or 3 he passed.
Mhm.
And he's immediately came to me and has been like the biggest guide in my life since I was born. He has been the one that's really pushed me on this spiritual journey. And some people don't believe that our loved ones can be guides, but I'm going to be like, my dad's my guide. He is
They totally
definitely
can
a
be. They're
guide.
part of the team 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we chose this before I was ever born and he was ever born. So this is like going back generations, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so I think, you know, if you need a name, like when my son was little, he had a lot of fear about sleeping because you know, he saw spirits, and his room was pretty active at night, and they were always trying to talk to him. Old soul child, you know. And so when he was 6, I had a friend come and we showed him how to do a clearing of his room and did it. We wanted him involved so he felt empowered. And then we invited his protector guide in. And immediately I got a name, Sam the Samurai, in my head. And at the same time that I got that name, he blurts it out and I'm blurting it out, Sam the Samurai. So his guide had a name and he needed that name. So maybe, you know, ask like you said, I think that's wonderful. But I've never really felt like I needed their names. I just knew who they are by energy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I know when they're
Really are.
around. They always come around when I'm really sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge too. I mean, you've got that support.
Yeah.
If we could literally, if we could see the support we had, if we could see, we would never, like we were talking about earlier, I woke up feeling extra vulnerable, extra insecure. If we could see all of that, we
Yeah.
wouldn't even think twice. We'd be like, woo, let's go.
Well, it's called faith, right? Having faith that they're there even though we can't see them or feel them, right? But
Yeah.
we can feel them,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
if we're open, but we can't see them. So we have to have that faith that like that is who we're feeling and that is we know that that's what it is,
Yeah.
and I guess like giving into that or surrendering to that is difficult as
Mhm,
humans
mhm,
to believe something that we can't physically see,
mhm,
but you feel it.
mhm.
There's proof by the proof's in the pudding.
It really is.
It is.
This body is your greatest antenna.
Yeah.
It, we could sit with crystals all day long. I got one sitting here in my lap. We could sit here, with crystals and tools all around us all day long. But
Yeah,
ultimately, our body is the greatest antenna.
right?
Mhm,
It's amazing, and, I think that what happens is as children, they're super open, right?
mhm,
But we're teaching them not to be in schools and with TV and cartoons, and
mhm,
so they're shutting down. Well, I say they were, because I do believe we have a whole generation coming in the last 20 years that
mhm,
are not shutting down and
mhm.
that are not closing off, that are staying open because it's like we're getting prepared, it feels like, for a spiritual warfare.
Yeah,
We're trying to build our warriors around the world to kind of help elevate and lift up the world and find a better place, right? That's what I feel like is happening right now. And in order to do that, a lot of things are falling apart,
mhm,
but then a lot of good things are happening at the same time, getting ready to kind of like change things.
totally.
What do they say? You have to hit like the rock bottom to get like to find healing, sometimes they say. So I feel like the earth's hitting its rock bottom right now.
Oh, completely,
Yeah,
completely. It makes all the sense in the world. Sylvia, thank you so much for your question. And yes,
great
your
question.
grandmother, if you feel like your grandmother is there and part of your team, you're absolutely right. You're not making that up. You are not making that up. Somebody else mentioned somebody about a loved one. Yes, you're not making that up either. It's not wishful thinking.
Mm-mm, it's they're there. If you're thinking of them, they're there.
Yeah, yeah.
It like we literally live with each other. Like we are supporting each other. And I love the analogy, and I don't know if you've seen this, but I looked into a lot of spiritual books for my son when he was little
Yep.
and some of the things to help explain to him. And this I feel like works for adults too. If you imagine a bowl of water, that's the spirit realm. And then you throw ice cubes in it. The ice cubes are us. So what happens when those ice cubes melt? We go back into that spiritual realm and we become part of the universe and we're all connected. And so that universe of spiritual beings are supporting us in the living. That's my
Truth.
favorite analogy. I got
Oh
that
my
out of
God. I love
a
it.
children's spiritual book. I got that out of, and I'm like, that's like for adults, like kids too, but adults need that because I'm a visual person. And when I read that, I was like,
Mhm,
exactly. That's how I've felt my whole life. They're
totally.
with us always. We just have to know that they're there.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Future someone. Hi, future someone. I love your love your name.
I
Future
know,
someone.
me too.
Um, for people who have passed, when their energy comes through, does it feel differently to you for someone who hasn't completely crossed? Hope that makes sense.
Okay, I think what they're saying, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, but when they say that they haven't completely crossed, are they talking about perhaps a spirit that may be stuck? Because I don't believe in that. But
Yeah.
maybe you do, I don't
I
know.
no. I see. I haven't.
I've never experienced anybody stuck.
I haven't either, but I know a lot of our colleagues have. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I really can't speak to that. I don't negate it. What I've learned from the spirit world is, I mean, like, let's be clear, the spirit realm and everything is so vast and so
yeah,
enormous. Like, we can't wrap this physical noodle around it. Um, I have not experienced that. Now, here's what, what I have experienced, okay? Um, I have experienced someone coming back. You know what I mean? Crossing and coming back. They come back to their funerals all the time. We all do. We want to hang out.
We're
We
not
come back
stuck.
for celebrations,
Yeah.
Yeah, but this feeling of not crossing for whatever reason, and who knows, maybe because we are coming out of our ego, maybe in that flash split moment, the ego says, no, I want to go over to this room first before I go. I mean, maybe that's possible. I haven't experienced it, so yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I will say this. I base it off of my own memories of being in the spirit world, and I have 3 distinct past life memories of dying. Lovely, I just remember my death. But I immediately was met with love, family, guides, angels waiting for me, and hands grabbing me with love and feeling like, almost like instantly like I'm just being supported, and I just need to go and do like, my passing, like, go through the whole process, but I'm not stuck anywhere, and I definitely remember watching over my family, making sure they were okay. I definitely remember, lots of things, but I've never seen or experienced or felt anybody that was stuck. I will say this as well. I've been doing readings professionally for now about 11 years. And I've had so many clients come to me telling me their loved one is stuck because a medium told them that.
Yeah.
And what can they do? And they're so concerned and so upset and so feared and worried and all this. And I had no problem connecting with them, and they definitely weren't stuck,
Yeah.
and never were they stuck. They talked about their transition and who was waiting for them.
Right.
I think it's a misinterpretation personally. I'm not gonna say they're wrong. I think they're misinterpreting the information they're getting. That's what I think. They felt stuck in life, not now.
Yeah, and I my question is, I we work very similarly, very evidentially, very
Yeah,
matter of factly. But my question would be like we know that we have guides, spirit
yeah,
guides, guardians, loved ones, and who knows? There's lots more that we don't even know, right? But if we have all this protection, why are they not coming for us if we're stuck or lost
yeah, yeah.
or we took a wrong turn or like what
Right,
like where are they?
right. Yeah, exactly. They're there. They're waiting for us. My mom was a spiritual being. She really like she raised us believing in spirits. And she used to take us to a center for spiritual living in Santa Monica in the 70s. So I grew up around like all of the spiritual like beliefs and living. My mom, mind you, is like wacko, but I still appreciate that part of her.
Mhm.
And when she was dying, she was so afraid to die, but she kept telling me, and I was with her, there were people in the room. There it was really busy, that room. They were there for her, and I knew they were there for her, and they were full of love, and I felt it. And I saw her soul leave her body. It was like I remember I was with my sisters, and I said, "Oh my god, what is going on? Why is mom smoking?" Like her body 'cause, like, I was in shock, this was a couple years ago, and my sister's like, "What are you talking about? There's not smoke around mom." I'm like, "You don't see this?" And then I felt this peace, like, of her, like, hugging me, and this was
Oh.
12 hours before they pronounced her dead. So she left her body
Oh
before
yeah.
her
That
body
absolutely
died,
happens.
which happens a lot,
Totally. Yep.
and I saw her sitting outside by our car on a brick wall by the ivy, and she just waved at me. So she was like saying goodbye, but she wasn't alone. I saw her with her parents, my grandparents, and with my son.
Yeah.
And I remember the first thing I heard in my head was, I didn't know RJ died because we never told her.
Oh,
'Cause she
wow.
had Alzheimer's, and it
Mhm.
was no point, she wouldn't remember, and then she'd ask me
Sure.
over and over. So whenever she asked about RJ, I would say, "Oh, he's off seeing the world."
Which was not
Not
a
a
lie.
lie. And she's like, "That's so wonderful." So, yeah, I just don't know that they get stuck. Now, if anybody was ever gonna get stuck, my mom was gonna get stuck because she was not a happy person, She was afraid of dying. She was afraid she was going to go to hell because she wasn't a good person. She made a lot of mistakes. And so she was terrified of the spirit world and told me. And I tried to
Oh,
tell her it was a beautiful place. They were waiting for her. But that would be the person that would get stuck if they were going to get stuck. And that woman was not stuck. She was surrounded by love immediately. They're with us.
yeah.
3 weeks before we die, they show up.
Yeah, yes, I have had that. I've had people come through that were technically not dead yet. They were in the last coma
Yes,
stage of
yes,
Alzheimer's, and they were coming through
yes,
talking about them being in the coma and
yeah.
Alzheimer's and bringing through all this evidence. So yeah, there's so much. There's so much. I saw a question here somewhere about spirits, and the late great Mavis Patilla. Well, I just
Mhm.
love that lady. She
I
used to tell a
mentored with
story
her. I love
where
her.
she was
Yeah,
called to this house because they felt it was spiritually active, it was haunted or whatever.
yeah.
And she gets there, and it was in the kitchen. The drawers would open up, and things would move, or things would change places. And she gets there. It was just the lady who lived there years and years and years and years before.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
she just totally loved her space. She loved her kitchen. She loved her house. And we can come back, and we can be in that place that we love,
yes.
you know?
Well, and here's the thing. Okay, so I believe that some people are born, I think everybody has these gifts, but some people are born as natural physical mediums. And what that means is that physical phenomenon can happen from their energy, right? Through spirit and themselves.
Yes.
So when there are things where there's like things being, moving in the house and stuff like that, it's probably because that person themselves is a natural born physical medium and the spirit and them are creating this environment. Because
Right.
as a child, I frequently popped light bulbs when I would get upset. I
Oh my
frequently,
gosh.
the lamps would fly across the tables and break because I would get scared and then the lamp would fly off. And my brothers always thought it was like evil spirits. And I was like, never really felt evil spirits. I always just felt like it was my energy. And when I became like, 18 and had like an office job and I was filing, flames would come up off my hands from the static electricity. And I fried 14 motherboards and they had to ground me.
Oh,
So I think I'm a natural born physical medium, but I don't practice that, but I know that things happen around me
yeah.
and it's my energy.
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes people mistake that for a haunting, for it scares them.
Mhm.
Then their fear gets involved and it manifests even more.
Yeah, yeah. It amplifies it
And it's
completely.
really just a spirit being trying to get through and say hello, but we're making our fear get involved. That's my belief.
Yeah. I
You
and
know?
that yeah, I feel the same way, Kelly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay Perez, NY91 on Instagram says, do you think when they say stuck, they mean that they haven't crossed over because their death was so sudden, or they need guidance and encouragement to go to the other side?
I don't think so. I
Yeah.
mean, if you think about this is maybe I'm wrong and maybe this is my ego, but if they need saving, how would we be able to save them? We can't even save ourselves. Like, look at our world. Why would we have enough, you know, it would be like the spirit world would save them, not us. We're not gonna help them transition. I'll say this, my son had a tragic, like, very sudden passing, was unexpected. His heart gave out. We didn't know he had a heart condition, he didn't know he had a heart condition. It just was, like, instant, about 7 in the morning. He was in a fetal position because he was probably hurting, and he leaned over to lay down on his knees. So he was kinda, like, praying almost, it looked like. And to me, I felt him, but as a mom, like, I felt him, but I just thought it was like a bad dream saying goodbye. Like, he knew where he was going, and he was with my dad. He was with my ex-father not my ex, my father-in-law, who he never met, but for some reason had a connection with, and he was with other people in the spirit world that I knew that were there for him to help him, and a bunch of his friends, and he was saying goodbye, and he said to me in the dream, and I didn't know he had passed, that he was going on a safari with my father-in-law who's from Africa, South Africa. They were going on a safari and my dad was also going because he was very curious. And I was like, "Well, have a fun safari." And then I woke up that morning and found out he had passed like an hour later. So that was right about the time I had that dream and he's going on
Sure.
the safari and he was saying goodbye to me. It was when he was actually passing. So he did come to say goodbye, but he was not, and he was shocked that he had died. He said, like, "I can't believe this happened. I'm sorry, mom. I want you to know, like, this wasn't intentional. And like you didn't do anything wrong, but I'm out of here now. I'm free." That was what he said. And so I don't think like if
Wow.
anybody was gonna get stuck, he was a tormented soul, my son. He had a lot of problems going on in his life. He was 20
Mhm.
and he'd had a traumatic life. You know, my children, they went through a lot with their biological dad and stuff. And so, I would have thought he would be somebody that would get stuck. Or my ex-husband, he was crazy, would have got stuck.
Mhm.
But both of them have come through immediately and said, "Hey, we made it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And my mom should have got stuck, but she's not stuck. So I don't know. I just can't rationalize somebody getting stuck in the
I
spirit
can't either.
world. It
Mm,
just doesn't make sense to me.
it totally doesn't make sense.
I mean,
Um,
but I might be wrong. Maybe it's
yeah.
my ego. I'm not gonna deny other people, feeling that. I
Yep.
just feel like it's a my opinion is it's a misinterpretation of the energy that they're feeling.
So since we're on this topic, Sue asks, so what are ghosts in old buildings?
Can can you say that or you want me to?
So yeah,
I feel like
you
we're on
know,
the same page with this
when,
one.
yeah, when there's activity in old buildings, in places where there have been extreme trauma, extreme emotion, extreme over the years, right?
Or repetitive.
Yeah, yeah, over and over. It leaves a fingerprint, a recording in time, an energetic recording. And those who are sensitive to that residual energy, that we pick it up, we feel
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
more often than not, so many people are empathic that they don't even realize that there's clairsentient, as clairsentient as they are.
yeah,
Most people feel that before anything else. They feel
yeah,
the ickiness, they feel the vibe, they feel
yeah.
the, "Ooh, I don't wanna be in
Or
here."
they see it. They
Yeah,
see it.
then you got the seers, yeah, that they're
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, I don't like it." Yeah,
It's scary. It is. As a child, I mean, I was terrified.
yeah. Mhm,
You know, I slept with the light on.
mhm,
I slept with in a room I shared with my brothers on the bunk beds, and I typically had my own bed, and I would crawl in bed with my brothers because I was scared.
mhm,
I
mhm,
didn't understand it as a child because no one explained it to me.
mhm.
But I also knew I was with my angels and that they were gonna protect me, and I'd always call my angels in
Aw,
when I got
yes,
scared. But,
yes.
it's something that our society has never really truly embraced.
Well, we've got the paranormal craze, which started, back in the mid 2000s, and we've got all of those paranormal shows. They're
Which
they're
it
interesting
sells.
and yeah, and they can be entertaining, but and
Yeah.
they can also have some really, bizarre, crazy things that happen.
Mhm.
Not denying that at all.
No.
But there's just a lot of extreme, there's a lot of the demon talk. There's a lot of the attachment talk
Yeah, they can't
and
attach to us
and yeah, so
unless
it's
we
just
let them.
it's interesting. It's
Well,
not
I
where
will
I
say this, I have opened up to other beings. So, I mean, I do believe that there are things that we will never understand in our human mind that are happening, especially watching Cindy Kaza and listening to her because I really respect her.
oh, I love her.
Yes, and she's honest,
Yeah.
about things. So I do think there could be a lot of trauma in the earth, like, I think she did this one show on the Holzer Files where there was, like, a big slaughter of the Native Americans in this land, and there was a lot of, like, bad things happening, and some of the stuff, she called it an entity. I think that all that negativity, all that energy, all that trauma can create its own entity. I
Oh,
believe it can open up to another universe that maybe we've never explored. Here's the thing, I give her so much like, she's amazing and she's educating herself and learning about everything around the world, right?
mhm, mhm.
And I love that about her. But
Yes.
to me, I wanna just focus on working in the light. I'm not going to open up my mind to things that aren't interesting to me, which is fearful. So
Yeah.
perhaps they are there, but I don't work that way. And I've never met a spirit that was stuck. But there are other entities that we're totally unaware of and not educated on and won't probably know until we go to the spirit world. That's my belief.
Yeah.
And these could be aliens. They could
Oh,
be
yeah.
it could just be a buildup of negative energy that becomes its own entity from trauma, like world wars and things like that. Could
Yeah.
be a lot of things, but I don't I focus on the light, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, that makes all
So
the sense in the world.
I don't
I'm
wanna
right there
say
with
that
you.
it's not true
Yeah, and you
because
know what? And like a lot of the talks that we talk about, they like today, like we reserve the right to change our mind 5 years ago when something happens, and we're like, wow, well, didn't see that coming. Okay, so let's revisit this and think,
yeah, I mean,
okay, wow,
I'm always learning and
uh-huh,
I'm totally open to another perspective.
yep,
But nobody yet has been able to turn me on the stuck spirit ones because I just don't see it.
gotcha,
Especially when I get a lot of people that say, "Oh, I'm so upset my son's stuck because he committed suicide," or "My son was a drug addict and he died in prison and he was a bad person because he killed his family and I think he's stuck." Not getting that. They come through and they want forgiveness and they want healing and they wanna help the family heal. That's
yes.
what I get.
Yes. Yep. Jay Perez on Instagram says, yes, that's one theory I've heard too, Kelly. Like sometimes we manifest the negative entities. So I chose not to focus on that either.
Yeah.
At the
I
same time, I'm aware that it can exist. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not gonna deny it.
Hmm.
I don't work that way.
Yep.
I have to stay in the positive. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, focus on I think it's sort of the way I grew up and the way I came here remembering or knowing that that's what I need to do.
Absolutely. Hmm. Yeah. Okay.
What did
So, wow, this has been a great conversation.
I know. Well, here's future someone wrote something that's really good, right? Do you see that?
Future someone, there's, oh, yep, yep, yep. That
There are
one?
different dimensions on the other side. Yes, there are. This is
Completely.
a great thing. My son, when he was 6, I love what he said to me because he's so open and he's such an old soul when he was little. Now he's like shut it off. He's 17. He doesn't think he has this. Whatever. He's a kid. Anyways, when he was 6 years old, he came to me. He says, "Mom, I have to explain something to you. I have a shadow man, and I know people are afraid of him, but he's not a bad person. And I have to explain to you what he's about because he told me that you might be worried, and he wants me to explain this to you so that I can work with him." And I was
Oh,
like, "Oh, okay, well, what's going on?" And he says, "Well, there are different levels, dimensions, whatever you want to call them, because there aren't really words for it that will describe it that a human can understand." And he's at a level where he's trying to evolve and grow, and he's doing that by watching and observing me. But since I see him and I talk to him, he talked back to me and we're doing an exchange. And I had to get your permission, he said. And he's going to teach me things and I'm going to teach him things. And I said, "That's wonderful." But humans don't understand. They call it levels, but it's really not levels, but it's like different dimensions, levels, whatever you want to call it. He says, "It's
completely.
hard to understand or grasp the concept."
Yeah.
He says, "But they're not bad people. He just has a lot of growing and evolving to do as a soul, and he's trying."
Oh,
It's spirit school, he said.
I mean,
I was like, "Well,
wow.
thank you." I was like, "Okay, son, thank you."
It's things like this that put so much of what we do even that much further ahead. You can't make that up.
From the
You
mouths of babes, right?
totally.
They're so honest, children. They just say it like it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he was learning from this guy at 6 years old about how, because he's into computers, my son, about how computers started and how the first programming language was ones and zeros. And he wanted me to understand this. And this man used to work for IBM. And I was like, "What?" And he's like, he's 5 or 6 years old. He's telling me this. And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, "And what are you teaching him?" He's like, "I'm teaching him about how to forgive himself."
Oh my stars.
I was like, "Oh my
What?
god." Yeah, and I thought, "What a beautiful thing," and about a year later, he says, "My shadow man's moved on." I go, "What do you mean?" He's like, "He's done. He's learned so much from me. He's moving on to a new teacher."
Oh my God.
I was like, "Okay, son, thank
That
you."
is so beautiful.
But I mean,
The
I
little
never thought
Buddha.
about it that way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Never thought about it, but what a great thing because there's all this fear around shadow men
Mhm,
or shadow
mhm,
people, like, with kids, right?
mhm.
And he want and I love that the spirit told him he had to get my permission. Yeah.
It's so sweet.
I was like, "How does he know this?"
Yeah, there's so much that we can't even wrap our brains around. I mean, we're struggling with the fact that we could possibly have guides and guardians and that we can really talk to our loved ones. That they're actually here. We're trying to demonstrate the truth and reality in all of that. Let
Right?
alone like what he was just talking about. I
Well,
mean,
that just, like, floored me, like, it was just a crazy thing to say, and I'm like, it was out of nowhere, and I wasn't expecting it. He was
but
like
it's
a little
so
boy.
not surprising either. I mean, for
Yeah,
him to have you as a mother with what you experienced in all of your life. I mean, from what you remember before birth
yeah.
and at 4 months old, like you. I mean, like yeah, it's so
Well,
not
he
surprising.
chose me clearly, I mean
100%.
and I always say spirit gave me that child because he's the one that forced me on my spiritual journey because I had been avoiding or ignoring my gifts all my life and trying to shut it down. And then this
Wow.
child comes and his first sentence that he could say that was clear because, he was a late talker was, "Oh, I really miss my grandpa. He was such a funny guy, but it was really sad when he ran his dog over because he was drunk." And I was like, "Wow, okay,
That was
my
his
dad
first
blessed
word. All of that
my"
was his first word.
he was like 3. He was like 3. Like, a first, like, real sentence, he just had to get it out. And the funny thing is my dad left when I was 7. He was an alcoholic. I found him when I was 29. He was still an alcoholic. And, he had drank himself to death basically. And he died when I think I was 32. And that was 6 years before I even was born. And he knew everything about my dad, and he's like 3 years old. He was such a funny guy. He was so charismatic. They had so much fun together, and I'm like, "Where did you meet my dad?"
Yeah.
"Well, we used to hang out together," and I'm like, "Okay, this kid's freaking me out." So he's the reason I started developing, and it was because of that. And my dad's my big guide, always pushing me to develop, and I was ignoring him. So here he is, I have this child, and of course, he's just like me when I was a kid, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," forcing me into my development because I went into this originally to help the child, not myself, because I was like, "I'm fine. I'm
Mhm.
gonna teach him how to shut it down because no one taught me.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure it out, and, like, together we'll learn this." And
Oh,
then it ended up being I fell in love and was like, "This is all I have to do this. This is my life." And that was when he's 17 now, so that was when he was about 4.
wow.
So 13 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, everybody is a lesson, right? Our children are our biggest lessons.
Oh, well, yeah, and that clearly was the contract that you guys had together, you know?
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's really amazing. You guys, it is 5 o'clock.
Oh my gosh.
So I know this just went so fast. Did we even get to any readings? I mean, I think we
No,
tried to
no,
do
but
one.
you're coming on our show later. You're
Yes,
coming at 7 in 2
that's
hours, and we can do readings.
totally. That's what I was
We
just
will
gonna
I
say. So,
We'll
guys,
spend about 15
double
minutes.
feature.
Yeah, yeah. 15 minutes, we'll talk about you, and then we're gonna go right into
Yeah,
readings.
we're gonna come join us on Kelly's show, Seeing Beyond Living Transformed at 7 p.m. Pacific. And yeah, we'll get to all your questions and
Yes.
all that good stuff. This has been such a great
Thank you,
conversation.
everybody. Sorry, I know maybe I talked too much, but, we
No,
get
you totally
sidetracked.
didn't. This was everything.
It was a
And
great subject, though, like, it's so fascinating, and
yeah.
I love all the questions, so I think amazing questions, everyone. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I love you to smithereens. Thank you so much for being here. Join us next week. Oh, you don't know, I don't have my schedule in front of me. Who's here next week? Somebody here super fun again next Wednesday. So,
I'm like that, I always forget
I
too.
know.
I'm like,
Uh,
well, thank you for having me. I
oh,
appreciate it.
thank you so much, Kelly. I'll see you in a couple hours, okay?
Yes, I will.
All right.
All
See you
right.
guys later.
Bye.